What's up everybody, Roboto here. In today's video we're talking about a movie that I particularly remember watching when I was younger. A movie I have some sort of small connection to. If you read the title, yes, we're talking about the Simpsons movie, which came out almost 16 years ago, may I remind you. But anyway, let's get into this review. The first thing I want to talk about is the plot. The movie begins in the town of Springfield, particularly in the church. We then hear Homer complaining about going to church, and then we see Grandpa having a vision foreshadowing the next 30 minutes of the film. And then the next 30 minutes. So Homer and Bart are on the roof of the house when Bart starts to dare Homer to do things. And it leads Homer to dare Bart to skateboard to Krusty Burger naked. This is where Homer gets a pig and he decides to keep it. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that Marge is scared about Grandpa's vision. It remembers Grandpa saying something about the pig, so Homer gets to keep the pig in the end. Homer then reveals that he has a massive crap silo in the backyard, where he has been keeping the pig's crap the entire time. So Marge wants Homer to take the crap silo to the dump, but he ends up messing up and dumping the crap silo into the lake. Another thing I forgot to mention is that Lisa has a side plot where she cares about the environment and how she likes this Irish guy. He isn't even in the movie that long, so I'm not gonna even bother to look up his name. But anyway, that causes Ipa and the president, Arnold Schwarzenegger, to put a dome over the top to stop something, I guess. This is one of the problems of the movie, which I will talk about later, but I don't understand why they put a dome over the town to begin with. Sure, it's a contaminated lake, but it doesn't make very much sense. But anyway, we then see. Hold on, I have to look up his name. Who is the main villain of the Simpsons movie? Aha, there he is. We then see Russell Cargill, which is one of the most forgettable names for a villain. But anyway, basically we see him show up on a massive screen in the dome talking about their situation and how they are stuck until further notice. We then see Homer at home watching the news when we find out that the townspeople are on the way to the Simpsons house after finding out what he did with the crap silo. We then see the Simpsons escape the dome through a hole, or shall I say plot hole. After they are out of the dome, their house then crumbles. After this point, the plot is very straightforward, and I'm not going to talk about the minor instances because they don't really matter to the plot as a whole. But anyway, the Simpsons then win a car and rush to Alaska. We then see Tom Hanks say that Ipa is going to blow up Springfield to turn into the Grander Canyon or something like that. We then see Homer and his family fight because the family wants to go save Springfield, but Homer would much rather be an asshole, or aka jerk-ass Homer, and stay in Alaska. He then storms out of the cabin and goes to the bar to get drunk and play Grand Theft Walrus, which is probably the worst joke out of this entire movie. But anyway, we then discover that Marge left with the kids back to Springfield. Oh no. Homer then falls on a piece of ice and drifts away. He then meets an old lady named Boob Lady. Boob Lady then says that if Homer doesn't have a vision, he is destined to be alone forever. Of course, he has a vision, but then also discovers that Marge and the kids have been kidnapped by Ipa and have been thrown back into the dome. Homer then runs all the way back to Springfield somehow. Actually, now I'm thinking about it, how in the hell did Homer get back to Springfield so fast? That means that the Simpsons have to take place over by the Canadian border. But anyway, Homer then climbs up the dome and falls in. He then sees a motorcycle and uses his skills that he used earlier in the movie to drive up the curved wall of the dome. But before he does that, he goes to get Bart at the church where he is with Ned Flanders. Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention that Bart and Flanders have a weird father-like relationship in this movie. But anyway, after Homer convinces Bart to go with him, they grab the bomb and throw it out of the dome, where it blows up and shatters the glass on the dome. We then see Bart and Homer on a cliff with Russell Cargill, where Russell tries to shoot Homer with a shotgun. Then all of a sudden Maggie pushes a rock off a ledge, knocking out Russell, which finally ends the movie. So yeah, that is the movie. And I want to basically talk about what I like and dislike about this movie. Let's get the positives out of the way. So the first thing I like about this movie is the pig. I like that it's 2D, I guess. I'm a sucker for 2D animation. I also like the villain guy, who I can't remember the name of. Again, his intentions are funny. And now for the negatives. Now, may I say in this movie's defense, it's not horrible. I like this. I may say I used to love this movie, but this movie is unfortunately kind of mid now. So, the first thing I don't like about this movie is Homer himself as a character. I feel like Matt Groening has been doing a much better job of Homer now in 2022 than back in 2007. I feel like Homer is a total asshole in this movie. Like, for example, in the early seasons, Homer wasn't stupid. He was dumb, but not stupid. For example, I remember this episode where Homer was going to jump off a bridge because he thought that he hit Marge, but it turned out that he didn't, and he actually wanted to forget his surprise birthday party. So we won't so he went and drank a forgetful beer, I think. But anyway, the Homer is a jerk and doesn't think about what his family wants in the slightest. Sure, you could make the argument that Homer was the same way back then, but now it's like he is oblivious to what people are saying. Not only that, but he forgets what he even said 10 minutes earlier. Another thing is Lisa. Lisa's story has been told before in the episode where she doesn't want the forest to be cut down, and then she falls in love with another foreign guy again. But that episode does it better than the movie. But for the movie's credit, we have to talk about Bart. So I really liked Bart's story in this movie. His plot is that he basically wants a dad that will care for him, and it's interesting to see Homer and Bart's relationship grow in this movie until the end, when they throw everything that Bart and Homer had just learned and throw it out of the window. The final problem that I have with this movie is the dome and why it's here. When you first watch this movie, it talks about the dome and the lake, but at the very end of the movie, the lake is kind of forgotten, and this creates a problem. I feel like you can kind of get rid of the dome and change the end of the movie, and not much will change. In conclusion, I don't hate or love this movie. I feel like this movie I feel like it's a bit in the middle. Some parts are funny, some parts not so much. It all comes down to your preferences if you like new or old Simpsons. Now it's time to go ahead and start watching Lightyear to do a possible review on this movie. Oh gosh, I'm not looking forward to this.